Khadija. So we're talking about back to our topic on the fiqh of zakat, and today we're looking at discussions on different types of debts that will impact the calculation of zakat. So before we get started, let's do a quick recap of what is zakat and why do debts come into play here. Then we'll look at debts owing first and foremost, and then secondly, debts which are receivable. So each of these will impact zakat in a different way. So again, definition, zakat is the transfer of ownership of specific wealth, meaning zakatable wealth, increasing wealth as we had discussed yesterday, which is to be given to an eligible person. So an eligible person, we haven't looked at them in all detail yet, and following certain conditions. So amongst those conditions, we had looked at a couple of conditions for the person who is giving zakat. So there were the three standard conditions, which were for just about anybody, which was, as we had loosely called it, the MBA, Muslim, Baligh, Aqil. Then there was the condition which is free, which we don't really highlight because that's not really a big point of discussion these days. And then there were certain qualities with respect to the types of wealth. There was discussion with the type of wealth that the qualities for that type of wealth. And one of them was that it should be free from debt. So that is with respect to debts owing. That was with respect to debts owing that we were talking. So when we're talking about debts owing, we're talking about exclusive of debt. That was the condition that we had mentioned, which type of amongst the qualities of the wealth, because we want to take out the debt. Zakat should not, whatever debt is there would reduce a person's amount that he has to give in zakat, seeing that al-gharimin is one of the types of people that can receive zakat, al-gharimin, and these are the people whose full net worth is overcome by the debt that they are in. Their full net assets is less than their debt. So this is why we're going to look at this specifically, exclusive of debt. But we have a couple of modern considerations which come here. Normally, there was not really this idea of mortgaging a house or mortgaging a building, these crazy types of debts which are seen today. So this is why our scholars, they divided out debt into long-term and short-term debt. Because what a person would do, they would take upon as much debt as they needed to operate, in an immediate basis. They would take whatever they needed, and then they would take care of their needs, repay the debt. In our days, what has someone done? People are doing, they're taking huge debts. They take a loan of, they want to buy a house. So what is a mortgage? A mortgage is he puts the house as security. He takes $2 million from the bank and he says, bank, here is my house. It's a security. It is a security. You're keeping it as lien, that if ever I do not pay back my debt payments, my loan payments, you can take my house. So he has become indebted of $2 million. So now these people, a poor person cannot do that. Someone who is actually eligible to receive zakat cannot do that. They don't have the money to take such a big loan. Gee,
What does a legitimate mean?
legitimate
Mm-hmm.
legitimate means जो सचमुच में ऐसे कर सकता है.
Mm-hmm.
समझ गए?
Mm-hmm.
अच्छा, बहुत अच्छी बात. So a poor person cannot take that type of a loan. It is only the rich people that can take that type of a loan. And then they buy a big house, which the poor person would not have. He would not get, you know, that would never pass in the checks, whether he can take that loan or not. He would fail. He would never be allowed to. So our ulama said, look, these people, they are taking such big loans, and they're actually, now they say that, look, we are in $2 million of debt. I am eligible to receive zakat. Bro, you got 4 or 5 cars in your driveway, all luxury cars. You have a huge house and this and that. And the poor guy who's, middle class, he's going to be paying you zakat. That's contrary to what Deen wants. So they had to divide it out like this. Although initially there was no distinction, but because of how the people are doing these days, a distinction has been made between long-term debt and short-term debt. So long-term debt is that debt which is due in a period greater than a year. So, for example, a person, he finances a car, for example. A person finances a car, over 7 years, let's say. Or let's do simple math. He finances a $48,000 car over 4 years, and he finances it at 0%, so it's interest free. His contract is Sharia compliant. There's no interest involved. If there was interest involved, then that would be another issue which would be problematic. But let's assume his dealings are clean, there is no interest involved. He has to pay $1,000 every month. So his long-term debt, it what is over and above 12 months worth of payments. 12 months worth of payments are his short-term debt. So he has his $12,000 is short-term debt. Now, if it's at the complete beginning of his term, he got it, $0 off the lot, then that's great. So he has to pay 12,000. He can deduct $12,000 of short-term debt, and $36,000 is long-term debt. So this will not be taken off of his calculation. That yes, you do owe that $36,000, but that's in the long term. So we're looking only at what's within the short term. This is how we distinguish these types of things. So let's look at a couple of. We'll do some some exercises, some examples. All right. So we can see our wacky expressions too. That when someone says something crazy, I'll give you a crazy look. That what are they saying? Okay. So a person his cash is $10,000, and he has debts of, he bought a car. So let's just describe his car. Car of 48,000 over a period of 4 years. So that means $1,000 a year. So he will look at 12 times 1,000 bucks. So now his net worth is his cash minus his debts. And where does he come? He's minus $2,000. So this type of a person would be eligible to receive zakat. If there's nothing else, we haven't looked at his non-essentials items. So say that there are some non-essential items that he has, then we're going to see what he has in terms of non-essentials. Chances are, if the guy's driving a $48,000 car, then he is not going to be, his house will not be empty. Realistically speaking, if he's driving a car that's worth $48,000, his his house will not be empty. So now, non-essentials. Okay, so his net worth is minus $2,000. So does he have to give zakat? No, he does not have to give zakat. That's the first thing. He does not have to give zakat. Sorry for my typos. Giver zakat. Uh, let's make this a bit bigger for you. Okay, does he have to give zakat? No, he doesn't have to give zakat because, yeah, it is what it is. His net worth is less than 2,000. It's negative $2,000. But now when we start looking at his non-essentials, net worth plus including his non-essentials. So he has some basic furniture, but he does have some luxury items in the house. He does have a couple of fancy TVs in the house, and he has he has basic utensils and basic pots and pans, but he also does have that big dinner set, to show off. So all of that comes up to maybe $20,000 worth over the years. So now we're going to look at this plus his non-essentials. Okay, well, his non-essentials shows that he still has well over nisab. So can he accept the zakat? No, he can't accept zakat either. So this is one type of scenario looking at that. All right. Now, this was with respect to the debts owing. If there's any questions anyone has, just give me a little bit of a shout out, or actually do unmute yourself and let me know there's a question, because I don't have my Zoom screen on. I'm straight in my PowerPoint presentation screen. Okay, so now going on to debts. Yeah, debts receivable. So there's three types of debts when we talk about receivable debts. And why are we talking about debts receivable? Because we had mentioned amongst the qualities of the wealth that it should be in someone's complete ownership. Right? It should be in their complete ownership. The wealth should be in their hand, and uh, they should have the choice of using it however they want. We call this haqq tasarruf in Arabic, that they can use the wealth in whatever manner they see fit. They have the authority to do that. So if something belongs to me, but it's not in my hand, I lent out money to someone. He said, I have a great business venture. I have a great idea, but I need someone to, I need to borrow some money. Will you lend me some money? Look, I don't know what your business venture is, but I'll give you a loan. You know, you've whatever it is. Here's $10,000. You take the loan, and then you return it to me in 1 year or in 6 months or whatever the case is. So what is important now is that this money is owed back to me. The full amount, this $10,000 which I gave him, it's owed back to me. And I can establish proof, I can bring proof that if it goes to the courts, that it can be proven that this money is actually owed back to me. This is one type of debt. whether it be for whatever the reason is, when it's just money going to someone, it's actual money which is being given to them, and then so that will be considered strong debt. The next type of strong debt is that money, that payment which is deferred payment for business merchandise or for non-essential, for business merchandise, for non-essential merchandise. So deferred payments for any of these things. So these are both considered strong debt. Now the ruling on this is that a person has to calculate zakat on a yearly basis. But until it comes back into his hand, he doesn't actually have to pay that zakat. So long as it's not in his hand, he is still the owner of it. So he has to calculate how much zakat is he going to be giving. But he will only have to discharge that amount when it comes into his hand. And we'll have to do an example on this one. Medium-term debt is that deferred payment which is for essential items, for al-hawaij al-asliya, for those things which are essential. A person took, he said, look, I don't have money right now, but I really need this food. Can you give me the food? I'll pay you back later. Okay, sure. Someone says, I really need this car, but I can't pay you now. I don't have any car, and I'm just about to get a new child in the family, and I cannot. I need a car to move around. Please, can you give me the car? I'll give you the money later. Don't worry about it. So this is considered a weaker type of debt because it's in exchange for a person's own necessities. He was in such a bad shape that he actually needed to borrow money. Actually, he needed to defer the payments of his necessities. So it's considered a lower type of debt.
Yeah.
But with respect to how he has to, how the person calculating the zakat would look at it, it's very comparable to the strong debt. And then there is weak debt. That is money which is due for a reason other than the above. So it's not money that was handed to someone, and it's not in exchange for merchandise, business merchandise, not for non-essential needs, and it's not deferred payments for, even for necessities. This is money which is due to someone in exchange for non-monies or non-merchandise. For example, unpaid wages. I've been working with employer X for 5 years, and for 5 years, he's paid me on and off, and over a period of 5 years, he owes me $400,000, for example. That's okay, 400,000 for discussion's sake. But it's in exchange for a non-physical thing, and it's in exchange for my work. So this is not considered, I do not have to give zakat on this until it comes into my hand. Until it comes into my hand, I do not have to give zakat on it. And unpaid dues from other contractual agreements, whether they be dini, whether they be whatever. For example, someone inherited, there was a death in the family. Person X died, and his son was supposed to inherit his money. He had a little fortune or a big fortune, but because there was some bickering with respect to the division of the, of the inheritance. This money never got divided out, never reached him yet. So it's been 10 years, and he still hasn't received his dues. He doesn't have to pay zakat on it yet. Once it comes in, he does not even have to calculate how much zakat he has to pay. Once it comes into his hands, then he pays zakat on it. Until that point, he does not have to keep on calculating on a yearly basis how much he should be giving. Same thing with the unpaid wages. Same thing that a woman got married and she had she had whatever amount of mahar, whatever amount of dower that her husband had to give her. But being from this cultural background that we're in, the husband opts not to pay. He says, I'm not going to pay. And only when I'm dying, I'll say, please, forgive the amount. Well, that was due to her, and he should be giving it to her. And she should have given it to her live when they got married. But whatever the case is, it until it has reached her hands. So that's a whole different discussion we're going to take, on this whole garbage that goes on with culture, which has nothing to do with Islam. But that's another topic for another day. Oh, that's a whole other topic. Bottom line is, until the money comes into her hands, she does not have to pay zakat on it. So whatever, there was a khula agreement. A woman gave, she told her husband, who was unwilling to give her a divorce, that, look, I'll give you $10,000. You just let me go. I'm done. And he says, okay, fine. So now she has to give $10,000 to the man. So as soon as the agreement has been done, now she is free. He is entitled to the money. But the woman decides not to give the money. She's holding off on it, holding off, holding off. Well, the man would normally have to pay zakat on it, but because it is in exchange for something non, you know, it's not merchandise and it's not money in nature, so he will just hold off on paying zakat. When the money finally does come in, then he will pay zakat on it. So now I told you there was a particular exercise that we had to do with respect to strong debts. With respect to strong debts. With weak debts, once the money does come in, even if it be after 10 years, then you pay money on it after 10 years for that. And that's considered like the first year it's in your hand. So you only pay for it starting from that year. With respect to strong debts, the story is different. You keep calculating every year, and you only pay, well, you have to pay once it comes into your hand. The people who are seeing, like every year I'm going to be paying 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. If it takes 40 years to reach me, then that's going to be a big lump sum payment. I don't want to go that route. So let's just do a bit of a calculation how we would go about doing that. So we open our trusty Excel file. Oh, sorry. Okay. So strong debt. What is the amount? The amount is, say, $100,000. I lent $100,000 to somebody. Okay, now in in a period, I I I lent him this much. So the first year, he has to pay me 2.5% of this, or that's how much zakat I should have to give. But now let's see, and he held it for 10 years. That means for 10 years, I have to keep on doing the calculation of how much zakat I have to give. Right? So in the first year, it was 10 on 100,000. Now, out of this 100,000, after the first year, 2,500 is no longer mine. I only have 9750. So the second year, I will be paying this amount of zakat. All right. So third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. So this is the first year. 100,000 is considered my money. I have to give 2,500 of zakat from it. Second year, 97,500 is considered my money because 2,500 was already now zakat money. So I only have to pay 2.5% of it, which is 2437.5. Third year, now we add these two up. Sorry, my formula is a bit messed up. My formula is a bit messed up. Okay, I think I've managed to confuse myself in terms of my Excel skills. But okay, 9750, 97,500 is the amount on which give I have to give zakat. Okay. Now in the third year, I have 97,500 minus 24. No, okay. What I had done initially was right. So minus 2430, this number 2437.5, which is the zakat that I had to give, and now the amount, zakatable amount, the total amount which actually belongs to me is 95062.5. How much percentage of zakat? 2.5%. What remains is 92,685. So over a period of 10 years, I'm going to be paying how much? As you see in the corner here, 22,000. Okay, maybe you don't see it here. So let's total zakat. And we are going to calculate the entire zakat. Look at the whole amount. After 10 years, 22,367 is zakat because the amount of ownership that I had in this 100,000 kept on decreasing. Normally, if the whole 100,000 belonged to me, then it'd be 25, 25, 25, 25, 2,500 times 10 would have been 2,500. Sorry, 25,000. Forgive my shoddy math. This is unacceptable. But because my ownership in this 100,000 kept on decreasing because the portion of zakat was 2.5, then of the remaining amount another 2.5, then 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, so on. It kept on increasing, so my total ownership at the end will be what it is. So yeah, at the end of this time, see the 7763 is reflective of our 22367, which was the remaining, was the zakat which we have already deducted in this whole period. So that is how we would do our calculation on long-term debt. That's how we would do our calculation on long-term debt. So I don't know if there are any questions so far, or either I'm such an amazing explainer that everyone is explained, or it's like, all right, you're just crazy. You don't know what you're going on about. But yes, so that's pretty much that. And so this is a brief discussion with respect to debts. So debts owing to us should be figured in our calculation. It should not be just that we forget about it in its entirety. No, we do have to give zakat on that. And what money we owe, we can only include up to 1 year's worth of short-term debts. Now, for example, a person is holding other large debts which are due live. For example, a person made a big purchase on a credit card. Now, the fact that he should be avoiding interest is a separate story. So let's say that he's purchasing this whatever he's purchasing, but he's inshallah he will be paying it back in a month, or he expects to be able to pay it back in a month, or he took he borrowed the money from someone, whatever it was he borrowed, he bought a $20,000 worth of car or a computer, and this payment has to be full money has to be returned within the period of a year, even though the sum is large, but it is considered a short-term debt. This is from the debts, the monies which are owed. So yesterday we had started discussing about stocks. We started discussing about stocks and why you will find different takes on how the ulama, you know, they talk about the stocks. Some put a proxy figure. Some say, no, you have to look at every single company, see what percentage of their money is actual, you know, cash, what portion of that money is their equipment and so on, and how much debt do they have. And then you would play with all of these things and then see exactly what you have to do because you are like a part owner in this company. This is one take. Now, another take would be that they would look at the intent with which you are buying. If you are buying as a day trader, so now there's different mentalities why you would buy a stock also. You know, you put money into Tesla and you want to grow with the company. You want to hold on to the stock. You want to grow with the company because you think this is a great company and you know you see it going places. So you're in the long run with these guys. So then this this approach which I discussed right now, seeing how much money they have, see how much stock, you know, how much merchandise they have, see how much equipment they have. Zakat is not due on equipment, zakat is due on merchandise, zakat is due on money, so on and so forth. You would do this whole detailed analysis. If a person is looking at a stock as, you know, a day trading commodity, he buys them, he sells them, buys them, sells them, he's not in it for the long run, then he is, instead of considering this as an investment, he is considering this as, you know, effectively business merchandise, right? This is business merchandise he's buying. He's going to sell it. He buys, sells, buys, sells, buys, sells. So now, this in this particular take, they would look at it that he's like he's dealing in merchandise. He's not dealing in you know, this is not a company that he is part of. Where I you know, explained the difference between the legal person and the, you know, the corporation in the local terms, and how this has no bearing when it comes to Islam, because Islam does not recognize the legal person. Islam recognizes the humans that are behind it and their share within that so-called, in that corporation. So that was a bit of a discussion on that. So now, amongst the scholars that look at it in the first way that I talked about, that you are actually owner of this company, some have gone to the extent of, you know, simplifying it. That if you're dealing in a banking type of, or a company that only deals in money, they don't have much equipment on the side. Each guy has his little laptop, but the real thing that they have is, by, you know, to a large extent, money. So you're going to give zakat on just about the entire amount of the, you know, of the worth of this stock. Now, if you're going towards a company that has, you know, more services that they're providing, for example, an airline. What does airline possess in money? They'll have a small portion. They will have a fixed portion, which is money, because they should be making money, right? But what is their big chunk of thing that they possess is the planes. That's how they're making their money. There is no merchandise as such, or there's very little merchandise other than these food stuffs which come and go. But the big chunk is their planes. So they're, you know, according to this, you know, this proxy method, so to speak, only a small portion would be zakatable, whereas the rest is the cost of the planes, and you do not have to give zakat on that. So, you know, if you guys are interested, you know, drop me a line. I'll try to pull up this chart. Mufti Faraz Adam, Amana Advisors, out of the UK. He's the one who put together this thing, and that's one take. Honestly, I haven't studied it in that detail. These are modern things. I haven't gone that deep into zakat. You can check up with our other ulama who are more in touch with these financial masail to give you the full details. But just there's this type of complexity when it does come to stocks. So, anyways, inshallah, tomorrow we'll have our last session, and on recipients of zakat. So, inshallah, till then, we'll see you guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And if you guys have any questions, drop me a line. You guys have my number, anyways. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.